Hello everyone. So we're going to look at the meta right now today, both what it is in concept and what is good right now and probably will be for the next few months. I'm aiming to be more abstract, so the title of this video can be something like, How to Make a Meta 40k Army. We will definitely get to Ctan. Will we get to Ctan? Let me look at my notes. No, we're not talking about Ctan. Okay, I'll talk briefly about Ctan now. The Ctan are probably going to be very strong. Still, they've gone up a little bit in points. The Necron player I'm meant to be playing this weekend has said they had to drop two Tomb Scarab Squall, like the little things. Like there's a tomb model thing that came in the Tomb World Kill Team box. Just little dudes, like 50 points worth of dudes, and they're still running their Ctan as normal. So that could be messy. I hope they would do something like remove the Feel No Pain just to make them killable. They're not particularly killable right now. I'm looking at the profiles and thinking, wow, I'll have to show all of my guns to my opponent, point them all at the same target, focus fire, and then maybe I can bring down one of them, but what if I don't? Just what if I don't? I can see why there should be a lot of defense, but there's too much defense on that. I think Feel No Pain, as a whole, can be removed from the game. Like, if you want a unit to have a 5+ Feel No Pain, what about giving them a couple of extra wounds instead? Then you don't have to stop, roll some dice, roll some random damage, roll that number of Feel No Pains, roll some more random damage, roll some more Feel No Pains, back and forth, back and forth. So like the Aberrants for the Genestealer cult, they have 3 wounds and a 5+ Feel No Pain. So on average, they're going to save 1 extra wound. So give them 4 wounds and remove the Feel No Pain. It makes the game quicker. I don't know about 1 Ctan per list, because that's upsetting if you've bought some Ctan and you want to use more than 1 Ctan, especially if it's like a bigger game. You could do like a points limit. Say it's Incursion, so you can have 1 Ctan. It's 2,000 points, you'd have 2 Ctan. Before the Ctan spam, most people were running 1 Ctan. Yeah, and it was usually the Nightbringer. I remember facing the Nightbringer. I haven't faced the Deceiver at all this edition, I don't think. Transcendent Ctan I have. Nightbringer I definitely have. I think that's it. You could do a like 2nd edition style. Here's the unit, you can have 0 to 3 of this. Or 0 to 2 of it. Depending on how good you want it to be. But then, how does that scale with game size? We're not limiting the number of wounds they can recover per round. You couldn't remove the army rule from them. So they don't get the regeneration. That seems fine. I don't see why you can't do that. There's other units in the game that don't have their army's faction rule. Like the Genestealer cult characters don't have cult ambush. They cannot come back. And we have so many detachments, so the Ctan can be good in one detachment and not so good in another, but there's a lot of detachments the Ctan can work in. So Games Workshop has done penalties to the 2 that we use the most. I'm wondering about all the detachments. There needs to be more of them, like 6 minimum per army. There's 5 for the Battle Sisters, there's 6 for the Genestealer cult. That's almost right. And then there's 29 for the Space Marines. So people fight over like the relative power of units, but that depends on which detachment you're running. Like the Patriarch for the Genestealer cult doesn't do much in the Xenocreed congregation, but has great power in the Final Day or Biopsychic Brute Surge. Yeah, not enough detachments, what's that? The Space Marines have versatility because of their 30 detachments. Centurion detachment when Paul has gone to Warhammer World and bothered them so much that something actually happens. Or they could be moved to Legends. It's fine. Alright, they get a new Centurion detachment, then they're moved to Legends. That's alright, I would like that. Hey, give support to the Legends units in detachments. Have a Firstborn Space Marine detachment that's all the traditional stuff. Great, do that. But this is also why like tier lists are very difficult to do, because some units are great and amazing in one detachment and utterly lacking in another. So apart from things like the Tectonic Frag Drill, there are good uses for any unit if you use it correctly in the right detachment. I know we keep saying, oh, the Genestealer cult Magos isn't very good, but if there's a lot of Imperial Guard shooting and Orc shooting and you're in the Xenocreed congregation, the Magos is pretty good. But you always want some meta units to make sure you don't get stomped. And sadly, some units and lists really don't work. Now, what is good for the meta can also depend on the local meta. And I'm not meaning tournaments. I mean, if there are 4 of you that play at a club, and you're the only ones that play 40k, 2 of you play knights, 1 of you plays tank heavy space marines, metamorphs are not going to do a good job. Arcoflagellants are not going to do a good job. But it also means that with that as the meta, you can define the meta. Your opponents have to change their lists to adapt to you. So if there's 3 big shooty stomper knights, and the Magos of the Genestealer cult can point at them and say, okay, all their guns are -1 to hit, that's going to work in that meta. If your army is loads of small acolyte units, or you have arcoflagellant units of 3 models, and they can't cut you down very quickly, and you can keep scoring points, then they're going to have to change their army to counter your meta. What if they had to use more Imperial Agent units to counter you, or more armigers? You can have an effect on the meta. That is a shift in the local meta. So I try and be general and give advice for like all the units. So in my big videos on the Genestealer cult, on the Adeptus Sororitas, I've tried to say, okay, every situation is different. Here's some general advice for all the units. That is fine. I mean, a tier list is more of an excuse to talk about the tactics of each unit than hard ranking superiority. So there's always some, well, actually, this is great in my army, but I play this detachment. But people don't comment, but I play this detachment. They just say, actually, this is great in my army. I don't know your army list. I don't know what you're using them for. But it can work. Aeroplanes are really good into a local meta of elite infantry. Yeah, I could see that. And they can't really catch you. Now, don't worry about the meta as a whole. In the last 2 tournaments I've been to, I haven't seen any Victorious Guard, and they were supposedly the meta. There have been a bunch of Necron players, and seeing this before some lists were posted, I heard that some people mentioned that, oh well, they knew that there was going to be Ctan, so they adapted their lists to fight Ctan. And the Necron players didn't bring Ctan. They had warrior hordes backed up by lords with Lichguard. No Ctan. Or they had cool things. There was a monster, but it was the Tomb Sentinel, the centipede, not a Ctan. So some people were adapting to a meta that wasn't even there, and in the process they left themselves weaker to face every other army. I was told that Custodes in the meta all ride in Land Raiders now. The Custodes I've faced have all been infantry. A couple of Sisters of Silence units, 1 squad of Terminators, jet bikes, and the Forge World tanks. You bamboozle your opponent? Yeah, you could say, I am taking the meta army, and then play the least meta list. Oh, it's Final Day or Biosanctuary Brood Surge is what's coming out for the Genestealer cult. Well, what if you play Host of Ascension? Is the enemy going to expect there's nothing on the table and all deep strikes turn 2? Maybe not. So if you're at a tournament and you plan for the fight in the final game, could be a grand tournament, and the online meta the online meta seems to just apply for the big city tournaments. But if you go to them, and you plan for that, and your plan is, I'm going to get to the final table, I'm going to get first place, and my army is designed around that fight, which is going to be against Ultramarines or Ctan. How are you going to win the 2 to 5 games before that final? Most people bring Space Marine armies of some flavour. Can you deal with a standard army, or have you skewed yourself too much to fight vehicles? I recommend playing to the strength of your army and the shenanigans and tactics you can do in your detachment, like taking 3 Rogel Dawns and a Hellhound in the Brood Brothers Auxilia, before you concern yourself with an opponent that you might never see. The tournament terrain that you are fighting on, if you're fighting in tournaments, then that can have an effect. If there are long firing lines all along the edge of the battlefield, like it is in UKTC, and as if the table is like a town in the centre, or a French village, and you haven't got that line of sight blocking terrain all around the outskirts, then tanks and big guns can do pretty well. If it's very dense and it's like a city fight terrain, then Orc Hordes and World Eaters can run through the whole board and never get seen or shot. They will do better. You can somewhat adapt your army for that. Or in a casual everyday game, you'd set up the terrain so it doesn't give a clear advantage to one side or the other. Leave some areas open where the super heavy tanks and defilers and things can move around. Like have the buildings of the board on the left side and in the middle, and leave the right more exposed so the big things can move and fight and play over there. What are we saying? In tournaments, are you locked to a single list? Almost always. Sometimes there's an escalation tournament where you play like 1,000 points, then 1,200 points, then 1,500 points, up to 2,000 or higher. And the list you've got in the higher games has to be part of the list in the lower games. Otherwise, you can't bring a bunch of different lists. You have one list for the whole tournament. That's the idea. In general, for tournaments. They should have internal balance for every faction and legends should be more acceptable. I agree! That should be how it is. Between Sisters, Genestealer Cult, or Deathwatch, what would you choose to face Paul's 36 Centurions? I mean, I could beat 36 Centurions with basically any of them. Which one's going to have the easiest time? Well, Deathwatch are elite, only slightly less elite than all of those Centurions. I mean, for number of models. And I play more the Bastion Task Force. So I'd be running and charging and advancing. So we maybe get to fire once. Although I would very much be coming to him. It's going to be Genestealer Cult as the easiest. What's he going to do? Kill 5 Acolytes? I'll cope. Any chance Twinland could be banned from tournaments? Or is that unlikely? It's unlikely to happen. People will just say, they're a bit overpowered right now. So cope, and it'll be fine. Some lists will be better than other lists. Not everyone will be able to use the lance as effectively as others. Some people may take a detachment all about using the lance, and then it gets killed quickly, and it's like, ooh, I don't know how to use the rest of my army. I was picking the detachment that makes them good. Mordaka was a whole detachment that affected a whole army. This is one unit that's particularly good. Some tournaments might do it, bigger tournaments are unlikely to. If you're going to a small tournament, they might have a section in their tournament pack about banned units, which is usually where they say you can't take Legends units, because they're mean. But rarely, that's going to happen. Very rarely. You might get that more in a casual setting where it's like, okay, one time you're allowed to play the Twin Lance against me. And if they're awful, you're not allowed to do it again. Can tournament organizers start to limit Catan or outright ban them? Same answer. They might do. They might say, hey, you have a maximum of 1 Catan per 1,000 points. That might be that tournament only rule. And you've got to follow that. And some people might see that and say, okay, well, I'm not going to play Necrons. Or they might say, oh, okay, I'll just do my Silver Tide and have 60 Necron warriors. No, 120 Necron warriors, all with a different character. I know Mordaka got banned in some places. It wasn't banned at any of the events I went to. And it wasn't awful to beat. I have lost against it, but I think I lost against it only after it got nerfed. Yeah, that's right. That was just weird. And they knew what they were doing then. They'd learned how to make it work. And they made it work so well that even in its worst form, it was still good. But you've got to remember with the meta, what is the most popular faction to be played is going to be Space Marine variants. So focus on fighting them. If you plan around getting to the top table and fighting what you assume is Necrons up there, you have to make it past the Black Templar Horde. Can you do that in your first game or not? If you can't, no fighting in the final. I think it's better to get to the final and lose than lose the first game and know that total tournament victory is impossible. If you're trying to go for that. Then someone else might just beat the Catan on the way, and then you get to fight an opponent that's skewed into Catan killing, and they're more easy to beat. That could work. That could be your plan. But as long as you have fun, then you're doing tournaments right, then you're doing Warhammer right. So focus on your army and what it can do. I will be looking at what the Sisters and Deathwatch and Genestealer Cult and Agents do in a meta kind of way at the moment, later on in this live stream. I've tried a few meme lists. I mean, things that can be described as meme lists. The problem is they also work. I mean, it's fun to do like 60 Battle Sisters because that works. Consider Paul. Poor Paul. He loves his Centurions and he's getting better at playing them. He has an army list and a playstyle that a lot of people can't beat unless they have skill at the game, which a large number of people do, but Paul is doing it right. He's like, here's a thing that's funny, I'm going to make it work, and to the best of his ability, he makes it work. So don't be afraid to take units that are not seen in the highest ranking lists. If they do something for you, if they fix a problem that you are having, then you are the one that decides that this is a meta unit. You determine what goes in the top lists if you win your games. Focus on your army and what it can do. Use the units that you like. They have a role in the army, even if you don't think they're super powerful. Find that role and keep playing with them. Right, let's talk briefly about team tournaments. So team events are going to skew things. In a team event, you're going to have 4 or 5 of you together, and you want very different lists, and usually you can't take the same faction more than once. So if someone has Imperial agents, no one can take Imperial agent allies. If someone has a kind of Space Marine, no one else can use that kind of Space Marine. Like Adeptus Astartes is then off the table. So you don't get as many Space Marine armies as you normally would. And then you see lists that are like 100 guardsmen and a couple of tanks, and that's part of a winning team. Or it's the highest listed list of a team event. But if the team as a whole was good at conspiring to match them with armies that can't face that many bodies, like what kind of examples are you thinking of? What armies are there that can't face 100 guardsmen and 2 Lehman Russ tanks? Imperial Knights maybe? Dark Eldar perhaps? If they can't blend through that many models? If they've got loads of Dark Lancers and there's not a lot of tanks to use them on? So there, they can be paired against the armies that they're going to be strong against. And those are skew lists in their own right. So don't look at a team event, take the top winning tournament list from that, and expect it to perform well in everyday normal games. It's unlikely to work. Teams also has very different tactics. Other tournaments are about scoring the most points. Teams is about a points difference. So if you can crush your opponent utterly and win, but only with 50 victory points compared to 20 victory points, that is considered just as valued a score as 80 victory points to 100 victory points. If you're going to play normal games and you want to see what normal people are taking, look at regular events. That's where you see your I can take anyone that turns up. Whereas at the team events, that's where you get, okay, regardless of whether Ctan are good or not, after the balance, we're going to have a player that takes all Ctan. And we're going to have a player that takes all Genestealer Cult infantry. Maybe a Brood Brothers alliance. So then you've got Cadians and Catachans as well as all the neophytes. And it's just 200 bodies being shoveled across the board. Those are the unusual lists. If you're playing in team events, have extreme and weird lists. You're gonna find a player that takes 36 Centurions. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Sisters and how they're doing in the meta. Right now, the Exorcist is considered overcosted, but I like them and I have 2. If there is something like Paragon Warsuits in the enemy army that's hiding and waiting for me to come close, I can blow them up with indirect fire. Chaos Chosen are also a great target. They have 3 wounds, no invulnerable save, they're very expensive. Same for the Votan something or other jacks. They don't have an invulnerable save, they can be wounded on 3s, they will die to Exorcist missiles. The Exorcist counters something I need to get rid of, so I take the Exorcist. In my list, it is meta. It counters the meta. That's good. Sacrosancts and the Hospitaller are very popular. Then you have a unit that has 3+ save, 4+ invulnerable save, 5+ feel no pain, and you can resurrect models. But some people take Astrid and Agatha. Try Astrid and Agatha with Sacrosancts and see how that works. Maybe have them in one unit and the others have a Hospitaller. Try swapping the Sacrosancts to Insidiants. I have done that. I had 1 unit of Sacrosancts in my Army of Faith and I swapped them to Insidiants and it works at least as well as before, but now it's 10 points cheaper, which I needed to do after was it September or was it December balance? Yeah, of course it was December. Sisters get nerfed in December. So that meant the list went up in points. I needed to save some points. Changing Sacrosanct to Insidiants was one way. So people are taking Insidiants. I have seen them take them. And they do quite well against Thousand Suns especially. If Thousand Suns become popular, let's have Insidiants. Yeah, nice Primarch. Shame if I had Anti-Psyker. Now when it comes to detachment, I play the Army of Faith. It's not the meta detachment. It is considered like the second worst detachment. And performance-wise, it is the second worst detachment. But it works great for me. I don't like the idea of trading units, where you put a unit on an objective, get some victory points, but it dies. You've exchanged the unit for victory points. Maybe because that opposing unit came onto the objective, you get to kill them. So you have traded one unit for another and got some victory points in the process. I don't like to do that. And because the Sisters like to do that, they lose units, they gain a miracle dice, I need something to compensate for my style of play. The Army of Faith give me more miracle dice as compensation. We have enhancements that give miracle dice. We have stratagems that give you miracle dice. It gives me extra armor penetration on demand, which is very valuable this edition. In 9th edition, loads of things had AP -1. Just standard weapons were AP -1. Orc Chopper, Tau Pulse Carbines, the regular guns that the Fire Warriors have, they were AP -1. This edition, a lot of them were not AP -1, which is good. So I can actually go back to the, hey, you think you've got your good save? No, you're on your invulnerable save because I say so. Because I have this stratagem that says so. It's useful. Shooting or combat. Metal Dialogus. Oh yeah, the one with the massive mouth. The one that's going, oh! Yeah, that's an interesting model. So what are the Imperial agents doing? I use the Legends units like Karamazov because that makes the agents work. That is off-putting to a small number of people who don't think Legends is okay. But it was okay at the tournament I went to. Not all tournaments are like that. Some of them are cool. There's never a tournaments do this, tournaments don't do this. Every tournament is different. Every tournament has its own little pack that says what you can and can't do. The Imperial agents are just not a meta faction. That doesn't mean you can't win with them, or you can't win a tournament, or that you're gonna beat them. Win rate is from tournaments. Win rate is not, you compare the win rate of your army and compare it to your opponent's win rate, and the person with the highest win rate wins the game. No. You can still lose to Imperial agents. Don't get cocky. 35% win rate means they have some people, like some of the best people at tournaments, are beaten by Imperial agents. They still win a third of their games. Casually, victory is very possible. How do you deal with infiltrators? Do you have at least some infiltrators in your army to counter the Imperial agents' mass infiltrate? Because they're almost certainly going to be using the Imperial's fleet detachment. One of the enhancements lets 3 of their units infiltrate. Inquisitor Karamazov also lets those units scout. So you've got 2 Deathwatch kill teams right up in your face. Oh, the Rogue Trader can also infiltrate their own unit. So there's 4 infiltrating units right away. You've got to be able to deal with that right there. I didn't win a tournament with agents. I got, was it 1 loss? Yeah, I had 1 loss against Votan. So I scored very highly with agents. I don't think I've come first in any tournaments in the last, year. But when I lose a tournament, it's like I lost a game, and that's about it. And it's almost always the final. Or near to the final, yeah. So I do rather well at tournaments. There was an asymmetric tournament with Battle Sisters where I won 2 out of 5 games. That was not great. It's not about the winning. Winning everything is done by one person. Ever run Assassins? One of the Assassins I use is the Caluxus Assassin. Because they can deep strike really easily. They can get into a spot. And they're cheaper, much cheaper than a Calidus. And they're easier to use. Bloop, I have a single dude. The deep strike 6 inches away. You can't stop me. He's going to score 10 victory points. Maybe he'll kill all your Psychers. Hey, come back here, Primarch. Where you going? Where you going? I just want to give you a hug. Why don't we talk about it? Yeah, counter any Psychers. Is good for that. Oh, you have 1 Psychic, Librarian or Chaos Sorcerer in your army? Ho ho ho! That whole unit has the Psychic keyword, you say? Time to do a lot of damage to your Chosen or Red Corsairs. That's nice. So yeah, that's the assassin I use. I have tried Neversaw before. Doesn't work too well. I have tried a Vindicare before. It's fun. It's fun having a Vindicare assassin. It doesn't work. I'll kill your war boss. I've almost killed him with 1 shot. I hope I get to have another shot sometime soon. I do often roll a 1 to hit with the Vindicare assassin. The Imperial agents have a lot of infiltrate. Oh, Sanctifiers. If you infiltrate the Sanctifiers, they also scout. That's another thing that can scout even without Karamazov. Infiltrate the Deathwatch veterans, have big hammers, big shields, start smashing your opponent turn 1. I do like the Decimus Aquila kill team because they have the guns that you can shoot away a screen that's in the way of the thing you want to charge. Works pretty well. Give them a Watchmaster so they can advance and shoot and advance and charge, and they can get around the side of buildings and charge things behind them. There. It works well. You can just get into the enemy's deployment zone, start hacking them apart. Still not a great detachment, it's just a really good enhancement. That is the reason you can take that detachment. And the +1 to hit is decent. Oh, I really hope they do something with Imperial agents next edition. Make them a full army. Because I was yeah, the Imperial agents exist. If you want to play Witch Hunters, play Sororitas. If you want to play Alien Hunters, which is a codex they never brought out in 3rd edition or 4th edition or 5th edition or 6th edition, It was just, hey, there's Deathwatch now in 7th edition. They've always been a mess. Wonder what they'll do with Deathwatch. Why do I play all the armies that they might just destroy again? And we only just got Genestealer Cult back. And we only just got the Battle Sisters back. Like in plastic. That was 7 years ago? Oh my. 6 years ago. It's about 6 years ago. Yeah, it was 6 years ago because it was just before the plague times that they were properly releasing the boxes. 7 years ago they announced plastic Battle Sisters and people were like, woo! Oh yes, I should mention, I'm trying to get a new microphone. If people would like to help me get some new microphones so I'm ready for 11th edition with a good and better microphone. This one is fine. It works okay. It's always great to have a backup microphone, but having another microphone would be lovely. So that's what money is going towards now. Let's look at a Deathwatch. So the Deathwatch, this is Adeptus Astartes Deathwatch, not Imperial Agents Deathwatch. The Black Spear Task Force is the way they are mainly played. I can make Bastion Task Force work pretty well. Lots of kill teams, basic kill teams, battle line units, you advance and shoot, you advance and charge. It does that thing I just mentioned with the Aquila kill team, but it's the Decimus kill team. Doesn't infiltrate, but it can go very quickly across the board, and you can smash things. Thank you very much for the new microphone fund contribution, Wenbintan. Thank you. What else do we have? Oh yeah, it's the Black Spear Task Force. That's the main one that people are using. So, new thing that's been meta for, I don't know, a hot minute. Black Spear Task Force, 10 Terminators, and a Terminator Librarian. Like, 4 people tried it and showed that it could work. They have the kill team keywords, so they are one of 2 units that can be returned to reserves. They have deep strike, so they can land pretty much anywhere. Then you have an Indomitor kill team with Gravis Captain. He has the Thief of Secrets. You get better weapons in melee. If you kill something, they get even better. There's 10 Deathwatch veterans with a Judiciar. They have the Beacon Angelus so that they can deep strike and they get free rapid ingress. Some people swap those 2 enhancements around. Crazy times. Then you've got the Beacon Angelus on the Captain with the Indomitor kill team. They can drop in, they can shoot. It's a shooting detachment, so you can use the stratagems that increase the range, increase the armor penetration over and over again. The Melters alone are not great, but with a lot of other bullets, they can do it. And then they can leave again, and then come back, and you just keep using like 2, maybe 3 of the stratagems over and over. And that's how you work that detachment. You don't need to use every stratagem in the detachment. Finding the 3 good detachment stratagems is maybe all you need. Or next time you're like, okay, I'm going to try and make a different part of it work. I'm going to go all for the shooting. Never mind the return to reserves and come back. Never mind the putting things in different doctrines. Never mind Armor of Contempt. Let's just have the 3 shooty stratagems and modify our weapons. That's why the Fortis kill team can work. I haven't had great success with it, but I don't use the Black Spear Task Force. It works in a shooting detachment where 3 of the shooting stratagems, they're shooting stratagems. And this is a unit that has lethal hits on most guns already. The Infiltrating Lieutenant does all the things that he does. Lone Operative. An objective, you get to reroll wound rolls against enemies on that objective. That does well. He does mission complete things. There's a reactive move, so if enemies move close to him, you can get away and out of line of sight or behind a wall, so you can't be seen and can't be shot. You're the other side of a ruin, it doesn't matter anymore, the enemy can't hurt you. Take a Corvus Blackstar, if you like it, make it work for your army. We've said flyers are very good against super elite armies, like Custodes do not like flyers. They haven't got the shooting to take them down. I mean, that's the basics of the Deathwatch meta list. You've got your Indomitor kill team with Captain, you've got a veteran kill team with a Judiciar, so you have fight first. You've got your Infiltrating Lieutenant. You can have the 10 Terminators with a Librarian. You've got the Fortis kill team. That's pretty much everything. Add in some Intercessor squads just for sticky objectives, and there you go. I used the 10 Terminators and Librarian in the Bastion Task Force, because then you give them an enhancement so that they are counted as battle line, and now you can advance and charge. Advance and shoot and charge. It's very effective. I used to use the Gladius Task Force, now I run the Bastion Task Force. Run lots of Marines at the enemy. There's not a lot of people that can cope with that. You need massive speed to be faster than me, and enough firepower to take out big kill teams. Maybe the Twin Lance can do it, but maybe not. So I'm not doing the meta way to play, but it's a very effective way to play. And you'll find that every now and then it's like, oh, okay, someone won a tournament using a detachment that people don't normally use. The London Grand Tournament was won by someone who used the Chaos Space Marine detachment that is the Space Marine plus Chaos detachment, so they have their little oath of moment. But it's not like the current, the newer Chaos Renegades one that was in the Maelstrom book, where you lose the Dark Pact ability, like playing Space Marines but Chaos, and you're sort of getting 2 army rules. One is a detachment rule, but it's 2 army rules. He was able to make that work, and it went well, and people haven't been able to replicate that. But that was meta because it was winning. People tried. That became the meta. Counters to that then became the meta. Then we shifted meta and it was like Knights, because they became really cheap, Death Guard were really cheap, and so Genestealer cult were good in the Host of Ascension because they could counter those 2 armies. Then came the penalties to the Genestealer cult in like September last year. So let's talk about the Genestealer cult. Host of Ascension isn't doing as well right now, but Host of Ascension is still really good. Having neophytes just throw grenades to kill really big things is fun. I know 2nd edition. I remember it. Right, so what are the Genestealer cult doing? Ridge Runners are kind of key. You have a couple of Ridge Runners, they have the crossfire bonus. That is integral to the army, whether you're doing shooting or combat. Because whatever the rest of your army attacks, well, if the rest of your army attacks that enemy unit that you did crossfire on, you get an extra point of armor penetration. Very important. Do you remember how I was saying just a minute ago, the Sisters, there's a stratagem in the Army of Faith where I get an extra point of armor penetration? I can have that with the Genestealer cult Ridge Runner. That's awesome. Have a small unit of Acolytes to sit on a home objective and try and mine for those victory points. And command points. They can generate command points. They get you victory points, they get you command points. But I like 10 neophytes for sticky objectives. That works for me. As soon as the enemy reserves are depleted, they can leave and move to the middle of the board. That could be right away. Not every enemy has super fast units or things that can return to reserves. Like if I play against Death Guard, if they don't have the Terminators, then they're not going to be deep striking. I can just keep moving forward, sticking the objectives as I go. What you take in the army is detachment dependent. Like the Host of Ascension, you take some Pure Strains and some Bikes, and then you can hit or block the enemy in turn 1. But the Biosanctuary Brood Surge wants all Pure Strains doing that, because they're getting the benefit of the detachment rule. And while they're getting the benefit of that detachment rule, the Outlander Claw has all Bikes doing it, because they get the detachment rule benefit in that detachment. So you scout them, then you can rush towards the enemy in turn 1. You've got the Demolition Run, you've got Mining Lasers, you've got the Flamer, Heavy Flamer things, the Incinerators on the back of the Wolf Quad. I think I definitely prefer the Mining Laser. But the Host of Ascension or Final Day is what I play in competitions. But Xenocreed is also fun. I can do well enough with it, but that is harder and not so meta. You can't play it well when you're tired, and you can very easily come up against someone that's like, oh yeah, I can kill a bunch of mildly, well, just overpriced toughness 4, no real save bodies. Because that's what Acolytes are. 13 points a model for a guy with 1 wound and a 5+ save. Not sounding so good. But if you practice that a lot, you unlock extra power with tactics not seen by most players that haven't tried it. It's the difference between Theory Hammer and playing the game. Someone finds the meta, that can be you. And you can keep doing this one thing and then do really well with it, and everyone in your local area will be like, oh my goodness, I cannot beat Jake's Sisters of Battle, or in this case, Genestealer cult. There's just so many Acolytes, and he plays them so well, and they're always scoring victory points and coming back and scoring more victory points, and I can't beat that. And that's with like a really difficult detachment to play. So if you don't play very often, it is fine to look up other people's armies and see how they play it. I exist on the internet with success because this is the service I provide the community. Final Day is the one that's working best for me in terms of competitive success. Like, think of the new Huron detachment where all the infantry get +1 to hit. That's just a rule they have. That's the detachment thing. Or you can have fallback and shoot and charge. Also really good if you get tied up by like a bunch of, say, Imperial agents charging in the first turn. You can fall back, shoot and charge them, and now they're dead. It's flexible like that. Imperial agents, oh, well, one of our enemy units we're going to get +1 to hit against. In the final day, if you know how to maneuver and position your units correctly, that's when you can get lots more +1 to hit, which is very valuable. Any more general tips for list building, like what percentage of units should I have for points versus stat check versus utility? Try a third of each. See how that looks as an army. I mean, it's going to be different for Genestealer Cult, because we have resurgence points. We can bring back extra units that are going to score victory points. So you can sort of factor that in and go for more killing units. Stat check is more something you need to figure out across a whole army, like having a consistent everything is infantry, everything is a tank, or almost everything is a tank. So I wouldn't worry too much about the stat check, have they got this right here, right now? Early game they will, late game they won't. That's generally how it works. Try half and half then. Half for killing stuff, half for scoring victory points. If you don't have enough units scoring victory points, you'll find that you're just throwing away secondary missions over and over again, and you'll have a very low score at the end. Now that'll work in team tournaments. Having all giant battlesuit Tau, you're not going to be able to do like cleanse missions or recover assets, but you'll be able to do any kill secondary missions. You'll be able to blow up the enemy and just stand on the points, and if that's a plan, you could stick to that as a plan. Then you go heavily into just killing the enemy. See how that works. Scoring victory points, killing the enemy, being difficult to kill with stat checking. Take 2 out of 3 of them and make an army around it. That can work rather well. I tend not to go for the stat check stuff so much. It's a lot of bodies to transport, and I just don't like tanks. They're boring. They're fine in Conflict 47, but you don't have loads of tanks in Conflict 47 because you have to have an infantry platoon. In this case, it's an assault platoon. In bolt action, it's called a rifle platoon. Really like playing the 500 Worlds missions. They're pretty fun. I've played a couple. Not having secondaries as a breath of fresh air? Yeah. You don't need to take the, oh, I have to have a certain number of units to just go to a place and complete secondary missions. You can focus less on the point scoring and more on not getting killed and killing the enemy, and can I just hold some points? Which is something that units that can't be killed so easily can do, like the Sacrosancts with Hospitaller. So try and make a list that works for you with the units you have in your collection. Play the same kind of list often. If you have a small collection, that's easier to do. If you have a larger collection and you're like, I want to play with everything across the edition, and I only play once a month. Okay, well, maybe you don't get a game each December, so we're looking at like 33 games. How much are you going to change detachment? Try someone's list and see what tactics they do, which is why I try and give more tactics advice than just, here's a list, off you go. People don't know how to take a list and off you go. They need to know which stratagems are actually used, which times you use the stratagem, when you deploy units, where you deploy units, when you attack with units. Maybe I'll do something like that for the Genestealer Cult. It's been a while since I did a tier list for them, so how about next week, same time, same day, same place, shall we have a Genestealer Cult tier list live stream? I hope this has been useful. If anyone wants to throw more money my way, Ko-fi link is in the description. Have a great day of the 40Ks.